The rain lashed against the cracked window of the late-night diner, casting long, fractured shadows across the worn vinyl booths. Inside, Eliza wiped down the counter for the third time, her shoulders slumping with fatigue. At 28, she was a single mother to 5-year-old Leo, and the diner's closing shift was just one of 3 part-time jobs she juggled to keep them afloat. Her car, a tired, rusting sedan, had finally given up the ghost that morning, leaving her with a crippling tow bill she couldn't afford and a terrifying fear of how she'd get Leo to school and herself to her next shift. The small tip jar was pitifully empty, reflecting the quiet despair that sometimes settled over her, but Eliza chased it away with a familiar mantra: keep moving, keep smiling. It was all she had. That night, just minutes before she locked up, the front door rattled open and a figure stumbled in, soaked to the bone. He wore a threadbare, mud-splattered coat, and his hair was plastered against his head. He looked like a man who hadn't slept indoors in days. This was Victor Sterling, and while he appeared utterly broken and destitute, he was, in reality, the hidden CEO of Sterling Global Investments, a multi-billion-dollar empire. Victor wasn't down on his luck. He was executing a personal, secret test. He wanted to see if genuine, unconditional humanity still existed outside the gilded cages of his own life. He had deliberately placed himself in this vulnerable, uncomfortable position, but tonight, his meticulously planned charade had gone slightly sideways. The cheap motel he booked under a fake name had cancelled his reservation, and his burner phone had just died, leaving him truly stranded in the freezing downpour. Victor sat in a booth, shivering, and Eliza approached him tentatively. He ordered only a coffee, black, and asked, in a quiet, defeated voice, if he could borrow the diner phone, a request she had to deny since the landline was strictly for emergencies. When she brought his coffee, she noticed his hands were shaking violently and his knuckles were scraped raw. Despite the sinking feeling about her own bills, Eliza looked at the empty tip jar, then back at Victor, and made an instantaneous decision. Without a word, she returned to the kitchen and brought him a warm, grilled cheese sandwich and a fresh mug of soup, setting them down gently. On the house, she whispered, "It's too cold to be out there hungry." Victor, the man who owned private jets and entire island resorts, looked at the simple meal and felt a lump form in his throat. He thanked her, not with the arrogance of a powerful man, but with the genuine humility of a grateful person. As he ate, Eliza pulled out a crisp $20 bill, the last of her emergency money, and slid it to him. "There's a bus that stops 2 blocks up," she said. "It runs for another hour. This is for the fare and maybe a small room for the night. Please be safe." Victor stared at the money, realizing this small act cost her more than any $1 million donation cost him. He accepted the 20, nodded, and disappeared back into the storm, carrying Eliza's $20 bill and an indelible memory of her kindness. Over the next few weeks, Victor returned, still in disguise, but now he was simply observing. He realized Eliza's kindness wasn't a fluke, it was her default setting. He watched her patiently help an elderly man count out change, saw her share her lunch with a homeless woman who often sat outside, and heard her frantic, whispered phone calls about Leo's flu and the threat of her car being permanently scrapped. He learned about her dream of saving up to go to night school to finish her nursing degree. The challenge he had come to face, finding authentic goodness, was resolved, but now, a new conflict arose within him. How could he, a man of such immense resource, stand by and watch her struggle? The pressure mounted for Eliza until the inevitable crash. One morning, she received a certified letter, an eviction notice. She sat on the curb, head in her hands, her world narrowed to the terrifying prospect of telling Leo they had no home. It was at this moment, broken and defeated, that a sleek, black sedan, not the old clunker Victor used for his disguise, but a true luxury vehicle, pulled up silently beside her. The back window glided down, and inside sat Victor Sterling, but this time, he was impeccably dressed in a bespoke suit, looking every bit the ruthless, powerful CEO he was. Eliza stared, utterly speechless, as Victor held up a slightly crinkled, familiar $20 bill. "You lent me this once when I needed it most, Eliza," he said, his voice deep and sincere. "Now, let me return the favor, with interest." He handed her an envelope containing the deed to a new, smaller house that was close to Leo's school, a check that cleared all her outstanding debts, and a letter offering her a paid, flexible scholarship to any nursing program she wanted, along with a part-time administrative job at Sterling Global's nonprofit foundation that matched her skills. He explained his test, his observation, and his profound realization that her heart was the most valuable asset he had ever encountered. Eliza didn't need the money to recognize her own value, but the opportunity it provided was life-changing. She accepted, not out of awe for his wealth, but because he saw her, truly saw her, when no one else had. Victor, for his part, retired the disguise permanently. He realized that the greatest power wasn't the ability to make money, but the power to change a genuinely good person's trajectory. He didn't just help a stranger, he invested in authenticity, proving that a single act of selfless kindness is a currency far more valuable than gold. Don't ever underestimate the impact of your heart.